Hey, what's up everybody? This is Muth24, and today I'll be taking a look at the DVD box sets for Death Note. In case you have somehow been living under a rock for like the past 5 years and never heard about this, I'm going to do my best to describe it without giving any spoilers. There is a review up on my blog, and I'll post a link to that in the description box. Be warned, there are spoilers in that. I found it really hard to do a review without giving certain information away. And part of that has to do with the second story arc, which I'll get into. I won't spoil anything for anyone who hasn't seen it somehow. But as for the plot of this series, Light Yagami is the main character for most of the series, and he comes across this book called The Death Note. And basically, he can write anybody's name in it, and they will die, as long as he knows their name and their face. He can specify how they die, otherwise they'll just up and die of a heart attack at a set time after he writes their name down. After he toys around with the Death Note for long enough, he finds out it's actually owned by this Shinigami, a god of death known as Ryuk. And Ryuk and Light sort of form this partnership, even though Ryuk is just doing this out of pure entertainment. He wants to see what will happen if a human picks up a Death Note. And Light is sort of enacting his own sense of justice, because the people that he's killing are criminals. And he's kind of judging them as bad people and taking matters into his own hands, which attracts the attention of this world-renowned detective who's nobody's seen his face, and his name is L, and there's never been a case that he couldn't solve, and he's taken on some huge cases in the past. He doesn't know how Light is doing all these killings, and he doesn't even know that technically it is Light at first, although he quickly narrows his field down through a few of his actions. And L is very methodical, very calculating. He's also incredibly quirky and probably one of my favorite anime characters of all time, just the way that he's portrayed. Not to say that I think Light is bad. Light, you have a really love-hate relationship with it, and I think that works great for the series, because at the beginning, he's really all you're exposed to, so you kind of just go along and think, oh, well, he's obviously the protagonist, even though it's a weird, backward sense of a good guy role. And then L comes onto the scene, and it'll really bring into question for some people who the real good guy is. And it's not so black and white, which is great, because some people will align themselves more with Light, and some people will align themselves more with L. Now, when I first heard about the series, I avoided it because I thought it'd be this, I don't know, sort of huge body count by the end of the series. Tons of blood and just overtly emo series, because that's kind of the impression that I got, that was the crowd who was watching this series more than anybody else. And then a friend of mine who was completely opposite sort of person told me he watched it and really enjoyed it, so that kind of motivated me to take a look into it, and I ended up really enjoying it. I think it's easily one of the best mainstream anime of all time, and certainly among the best anime in the past 10 years or so. Now, the first story arc deals largely with Light and his figuring out how to use the Death Note. And you get introduced to L, but his character doesn't really play as big until the second story arc comes around. And I can't explain what exactly happens, but there's a big shift in how the L-Light dynamic works in the second story arc. It takes a very interesting role. The third story arc is still good, it's just not as good. It feels really rushed in some parts and really lengthy in others. It feels like they wanted to draw certain parts out, but just didn't have the time to, and then at the end, the last 3 or 4 episodes, just kind of scrambled to answer a bunch of questions that people had or wrap up some loose ends. It's not terrible. I've seen worse in other anime before, but it's just kind of a weak conclusion, I think, in a lot of regards, but it does make sense how everything ends up wrapping up. So it's not like it's all lost because of, some of the shortcomings at the end there, but I do feel that the first and second story arcs are considerably stronger than the third. Now, taking a look at the box sets here, you've got this sort of glossy black slipcover for both of them, and you probably can't see it all that well here, but there's a bunch of different rectangular images that make up the front of each of these boxes, and they're all little screenshots from important scenes from the series, and they wrap all the way around each of these box sets. And then on the back, you've got a description of what's in there and a brief overview of the special features. So I'm going to go ahead and take the slipcover off of box 1 here, and there's not really 2 seasons of this to the show. It's just they split up the episodes at about the halfway point, more or less just to get more money out of you, but whatever. And then underneath, same set of images, not quite as glossy, but still pretty cool. Flipping this open, you have the rules of the Death Note, which I'm not going to dwell on there. I'm just going to show you that they're there. So disc 1, we have Light. Disc 2 is L. Disc 3 is Ryuk. Disc 4 is Misa, and Disc 5 is Rem. And then in the background there, we have the Shinigami realm with Ryuk sitting in the back there behind Misa's disc. And then you have this little card here which explains what's on each disc. There's 4 episodes per disc, and then most of the special features come in the form of these interviews with the cast members. And I actually have to say I really like those quite a bit. I do feel like this is some of the better special features that I've seen on a lot of the anime that I have, compared to some other ones. And then you've also got an ad here for some of the spin-off merchandise. I did a review actually of the Los Angeles BB Murder Cases novel, which was quite interesting, and you can check that out on my channel. But as far as who the interviews are of, Disc 1 you have Brad Swale, who plays Light. Interestingly enough, also plays Amuro in the Gundam series, and it's a starkly different role, but he does it really well. So I was glad to see that. You also have the clean opening and ending to the show, pretty standard for anime DVDs. You have behind the scenes with Alessandro Giuliani, who plays L. Japanese director and character design interview. Behind the scenes with Brian Drummond, who plays Ryuk. Shannon Chan Kent, who plays Misa. And then Chris Britton, Vincent Tong, and Trevor Duvall, who are all members of the Kira Task Force. So then for box set number 2, you have sort of the same thing. Pull the slipcover off. Different images from box set 1, but same idea. Death Note rules again. Disc 6 is Ryuk and a bunch of the Shinigami. Disc 7 is Nier. Disc 8 is Mellow. Disc 9 is Mikami and Takada. And then Disc 10 is Light towards the beginning of the series and Light towards the end of the series. And then the background here, again, is a Ryuk. It's just him in the Tokyo setting instead of the Shinigami realm. So then for this sheet, again, same ad on the other side. 4 episodes per disc again, except for Disc 9 has 5. And then Disc 10 is all bonus features. So for Disc 6, you have behind the scenes with Colleen Wheeler, who plays Rem, and Andrew Cavadas, who plays Higuchi. Disc 7, you have Alessandro Giuliani again, playing L, and French Tickner, who plays Watari. Behind the scenes with David Huritz on Disc 8, who plays Mello, and Kathy Westluck, who plays Nier. Disc 9, you have Heather Dorkson, I believe is how you pronounce that, who plays Kiyomi. Kirby Morrow, who plays Mikami, and Brad Swale, who plays Light. And then Disc 10, you have a bunch of bonus features, including behind the scenes with the Japanese voice actors, the original Japanese Death Note interstitials, I believe is what that is, interview with animation director and character designer, conversations with the Japanese cast and crew, and an expanded art gallery. So overall, some nice variation in what you get for the special features here. There's quite a bit. I was a little hesitant at first, knowing that this was a Shonen Jump property. I tend to stay away from pretty much everything they do, but I don't know if Shonen Jump actually made the series, if they were the ones just who distributed it. But either way, great anime series. I loved it from beginning to end. Like I said, it kind of dips a little bit towards the end of the series, but still some great storytelling, still some very memorable characters, and even if you're not into the darker sort of goth-themed anime, I think the whole cat and mouse detective game is really the core of this story, and I think it'd definitely be worth a look for pretty much anyone who loves anime, or even people who don't watch anime that frequently. Definitely highly recommended. So that's pretty much it for this review, and with that, I will see you guys next time.